From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hutchavandi
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up? It's Wake Up Warchant. It is presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website. QR code, that funky looking barcode thing in the corner of your screen. Pull out your phone, camera, app it up, aim it on there. Boom. Takes you right to the website. Pretty cool. CPTallybar.com. Lunch specials every single day of the week, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. On Wednesdays, we do pressed ham and Swiss, y'all. Grilled and caramelized ham topped with melted Swiss, pressed and toasted. Served with the horsey sauce and pickles. Usually I would say go to the website, check it out. But, hey, I just told you all about it. You can order online, though, at the website. Maybe even order a gift card. Give to somebody special in your life. Corey, when's the last time you went to the CP?
It's been a minute. About, 20 hours, 18 hours, something like that. So you know how it is. You know how it is, man. But, yeah, you're never not going to have a good time there at CP. But remember, trivia on Tuesdays, obviously that's already passed. And then they got bingo on Thursdays where you can win all that money. $250 a pop.
And the flocking Jimmy Buffett thing was last Wednesday. It's
Correct.
The third Wednesday, so
yeah,
get on board with that. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Check them out. They're good people. We assure you. Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports source. Corey, thumbs up on the YouTube, everybody. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Maybe even the website. That's where all the good stuff is. Warchant.com, Warchant30. The promo code gets you 30 free days of access. You can get the full rundown from Michael Langston and the commitment from Dimitri Emmanuel. We dropped the video late last night. Ira Schofel not joining us this week. He's on the road being a good father. Tom Lang also out of pocket, so you got gypped on your Tuesdays with Tom and Showtime with Ira on Wake Up. None of it, so you're stuck with us. Corey, how are you, though?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I miss those guys, but we'll be back at it next week, I'm sure.
What happened on – was headlines just you and Jeff? Was you, Jeff, and Tom? Was Ira on headlines?
It was just me and Jeff, man. Ira was downstate in Miami taking his daughters to South Florida for some concert, which was odd. I can't remember the name of the band. It's a band I never heard of, but apparently it's his middle daughter's, favorite band, and her friends bought her tickets to it. So that was really nice. And then, but it was in Miami, so Ira decided to drive her down there.
There you go. How come you didn't call anybody? You guys didn't need a third? You don't know my number?
Yeah, no, we don't want you to screw up that dynamic, Aslan. Jeff and I have something good going.
All right, let's get to it. I don't know. I want to just steal everything you talked about on the show. Don't know how much we got on the bone for you today, but we'll try to put something forward for you. We'll have a Renegade Express edition of the program either tomorrow or Friday. I will be with Langston doing some recruiting on Wednesday, so that might tie me up. But we'll figure it all out. We'll put the show together. Were there any other thoughts you wanted to have about Dimitri Emmanuel? I got a little bit more bold as the night progressed, Corey, after we got done doing the Sunday Smash on Monday night for the Tuesday podcast. Keep up, everybody. I mean, if this kid's been at Charlotte, he's played in 19, 20, and then 21. He sat out 17 and 18. 24 games, right, started in a row.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I kicked around some people at the program. Was like, hey, like, what happened? I haven't seen anything about injury. Was it something that was in-house? Like, yeah, it was something that was kind of in-house that no one really talked about. But he had worked himself into being a team captain this offseason. So, sounds like whatever that was is water under the bridge, and he was in the good grace of the coaching staff. Will Healy, I think, and the 49ers out there. But, man, if he started 24 games, some of that was with Alex Atkins, obviously the 19 season. I think he might have started all 12. Isn't that worth more than 15 spring football practices? Like, I'm not trying to say bless Harris, like, grab a seat, but I know some people are like, well, he's only 6'2". He's probably going to project as a guard, won't play tackle. But, man, of those 24 games, I think 20 of them were tackle. I'm not saying that, hey, we just got, Walter Jones here, but I feel like he's going to probably be a starter at some point in September and then ride it on out. Do you feel any differently about maybe where he projects after a little bit more time to digest?
No, I mean, I think we'll know on the first week first. Maybe we'll know beforehand. Maybe we'll get Atkins before practice starts in late July and know then where he projects to be. But I think we'll know very early on because remember, it's not going to be a feeling around process, right? Mm-hmm. It's not going to be like let's see where this guy matches. Let's see if he's good enough. Like Atkins coached this guy for multiple years. I think wasn't he at Charlotte for 2 years? So he coached him to an all third team all conference Phil Steele selection back in 19. So he knows who this guy is and he knows what he should project him as, I would think. So I don't know that it's going to be mixing and matching. Yes, he'll probably practice him at multiple spots on the line, but I think we'll know from the very first practice wherever he lines up, that's what he was brought in to do. I don't know if it's tackle or guard. I mean, I don't. Like you said, he played tackle for 20 of those games, but maybe he projects better here as a guard. But then what do you do with Darius Washington? Does that mean he's your right tackle? Because, you don't like Bless Harris, or do you like Bless Harris? And is this guy just the backup? We don't know. A lot of questions to be answered.
But, again, it's a good use of a scholarship, I would say, right? Like
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, because it's, again, like we talked about yesterday, it's the experience of it. It's getting a guy that he can play. You don't know that he can play at this level necessarily against the Clemsons of the world because he hasn't faced them. Not that many of these linemen on Florida State's team have done a bang-up job against Clemson or that ilk. You don't know if he can handle these kind of teams, but Alex Atkins sure thinks he can. Or Alex Atkins certainly thinks he's an answer. Whether it's an answer at a guard, answer at tackle, answer as a starter, or answer as a reliable backup, he definitely thinks he's an answer. Otherwise, you got a finite amount of these left, Ralph. There aren't that many spots available anymore. So to spend it on this guy, I mean, if you believe that Atkins knows what he's doing and you believe that he's good at his job, then yeah, you should think this is a big pickup.
Also over at warchant.com, this has been really good to have Ira on. Ira did a deep dive into Pro Football Focus grades. Extreme Makeover PFF stats project solid upgrade for FSU offensive line. Lots of good stuff in there. Check it out, subscribers. But I guess it's stretched back to what, 16? Sweet 2016 was the last time that Florida State had all 5 starters grade out at 60 or above on PFF. And if you're new to the program, we had, what's the guy's name? Something Rollins. His name is Seth Rollins, or that's a wrestler, I feel like.
I think that's a wrestler, yeah. Did we have him on the show?
We might have.
Yeah.
But we had some guy that he also works for the UGA website on the Rivals.com network. But anyhow, he described the grading scale out, and basically 60 is kind of like your baseline score. Like you pretty much run onto the field and you have a 60 as soon as the game starts, and then from there your scores either going to go up or down based on how things shake out. So, man, we got to reach all the way back to 2016 to have all 5 guys grade out at 60 or better, which is just that was kind of what I was trying to get at when we were talking on the live show the other day about, like, man, hopefully it's not going to be this much long. Like, we're not asking for a bunch of blue guys. We're not asking for a bunch of guys grading in the 80s and the 90s, but is there 5 guys? If this guy can be, let's say he grades out at 68, Corey. Now, I don't know if he'll be guard or tackle. Would you project this offensive line to have all 5 of these guys grade out at 60 or above? Now, in 2019, Dante Lucas was the only one that graded out above 60. Ryan Roberts.
Dante Lucas end up? You remember?
DePope, yeah. Ryan Roberts, as you all remember, transferred in from Northern Illinois. He graded out at 57. I guess apparently Brady Scott started a bunch of games in 19. I don't even remember that. Blocked most of it out. 56. Bavion graded out under 52. And Abdul Bello at 39.5. So, Darius Washington that year, 45.4. I don't know, man. I feel good right now. For some reason, Corey, I think we're going to have 5 guys that are going to grade out 60 or above. I don't know what that means for the wins and the losses and the offense, but it's got to be good. Are you optimistic like I am right now, Corey Clark? Drink it in.
I mean, I don't think this is a seismic shift to the program bringing in this player. But, again, it's your offensive line will be better than it was last year if it remains healthy. Because, again, last year, second half of the season, well, really the whole season, DLT wasn't healthy, and Maurice Smith just got pushed around like a shopping cart in the second half of that season. That should not happen this year. Like, look, right now, If your whole starting line from the Florida game and the Boston College game and the Miami game, at least the Florida game and BC for sure, is back. They're all back, and you've added 3 transfers who might play. 2 probably, I would imagine, we think right now are going to start. So you feel pretty good about it. Like, you feel okay about it. That you have some depth, you have some proven experience, some proven depth, and you just brought in a guy that's 23 years old. I got to imagine Lyles and Gibbons are both around the same age, 22, 23. That's good. That's nice because you have to have a bridge. I think they like these young guys, and they like some of the guys that aren't even on campus yet, that didn't early enroll. But you got to have a bridge to get to those guys. And the portal pickups like this is a nice piece. It's a Charlotte piece, though. You didn't get the Mims kid, which would have been huge. This isn't that. Yeah. But it does make your team better, whether it's just providing depth when the inevitability of one of your inside guys or your tackles go down. Like, look, say Dylan Gibbons sprains an ankle, can't go. Well, now you got somebody that can slide into a guard spot.
That happened last year. I mean, Gibbons, I think, was out the NC State game. And
so when you think about it, the drop off from like Dylan Gibbons at guard to what was behind him last year was significant. Maybe it's not as significant now with this guy having this much experience and having played well at times in his career, but having started 24 games, being an third-team all-conference guy, sure, that's something. But also, say Darius, even if one of the tackles gets it, say Bless Harris is a starter and gets hurt, so Darius has to move to tackle. Well, now you got a guard to fill it in. So this guy having versatility and having depth is a really important thing to have on your team. And you'd like to do it the normal way by developing your own linemen and bringing them along and them becoming really good. But if you can't do that in the short term, this is a nice alternative. Go get a guy that's played a lot of football, that will not embarrass you, that should not just get pummeled like has happened in the past, and can either fill in or can be a starter. But he's going to compete, man. No, I don't know at what position. We have no way of knowing for sure yet, but he is going to compete for a starting spot. And if he doesn't get it, good to have a backup like that.
Crazy thing is Brady Scott was only marginally graded out lower than Dylan Gibbons, who drew high praise from a lot of folks in circles that talk about this sort of stuff. I think ultimately what this means is, like, we are going to get the full understanding of what and who Jordan Travis can be, because they can run the ball when they have to. Listen, no team is always going to be able to convert like 3rd and 3. We know you're running the ball. There's not a lot of teams that can just go ahead and do that. I never thought that the offensive line held back the run game at all last season. I think they had, adequate running backs, adequate offensive line, and a pretty good running game overall. But I don't know. I would argue that this is probably more of a coup for Jordan Travis than adding maybe some of these receivers. I think one of the guys can be really good. I don't know if all these 4, will they hit on all of them this season? I don't know, man. If Winston Wright would have been able to stay healthy, I'd felt a lot better about this sort of train of thought. But I think for Jordan, man, this is going to be big because I think he's going to have time. Not oodles and oodles of time and everybody just blitzing him, and he's going to be able to pick things apart like James because he is so quick with it. But, man, I do imagine that this is going to help him out maybe even more so than having better, receivers, which he does have. I mean, I just feel like anything that he needed, if he was a free agent, they've addressed stuff. I mean, again, maybe not to the level that we all desire, a la Amarius Mims, but some say Dimitri Emmanuel, the Amarius Mims of Charlotte football.
Right, correct, yeah.
I think if you're like Jordan Travis, you have to feel pretty good right now. I think like you've got a capable offensive line. Everyone's going to grade out probably above 60 this year. The running game is going to be what the running game is going to be. Now, can you, with time, with protection, with guys you can trust, all 5 guys, does that maybe help you see things faster? One less thing you have to worry about. So it's all on the line for you, Jordan. No pressure.
Yeah, it's obviously a big year for him. It's a big year for the offense in general. But, yeah, essentially they did address the needs. You would have liked Winston Wright to be healthy, like knowing he's healthy. That would be nice because he is the most proven guy. But, yeah, man, the receiving core is better. The offensive line is better. Don't know about the running back situation. I feel good about it, but you don't know because it hasn't been proven yet.
But good enough, though, right, Corey? Good enough. You're not losing sleep if you're Mike Norvell over your running game.
Not about running back. And really, so your wide receiver has been upgraded. The wide receiver position has been upgraded. Maybe Winston Wright plays, maybe he doesn't. But either way, you got two dudes on campus that will be playing for you a lot that weren't here last year that are probably an upgrade. Pittman is certainly an upgrade. And then the offensive line, like I said, last year's offensive line wasn't very good. It wasn't horrible, though. This year's offensive line will be better than that one. So, again, those are baby steps. You know, when you don't land people like Amarius Mims, you don't take giant leaps. When you don't get Jordan Addison or a Winston Wright, if he'd have been healthy, when that doesn't maybe pan out, you don't take giant leaps at those positions, but you take gradual steps, which are better than nothing. So, again, nobody's going into 2022 thinking this is an 11-win team. But, you know, he's put the roster in place where, you know, you've got better wide receiver play, which was awful last year. You've got better offensive line play that was just average last year. So, and again, I always say it, you had essentially a 6-6 football team last year. I know it's 5-7, 6-6, whatever. So you should be a little bit better, and a little bit better with a schedule that's similar. Maybe you get to 7 or maybe you get to 8 wins, and that's what we're all hoping for. It's what we're crossing our fingers for. Whenever that was, Monday, getting an announcement like that, that's not an insignificant thing. It just isn't. The guy will play. You've now got 11 transfers. I think we feel pretty confident, Aslan, right?
Yes.
That all 11 factor in. Like maybe Greedy Vance does it. Well, Deuce Spann won't. Yeah, so
and not in the immediate term.
So you probably got 10 guys that are factoring in. Now maybe all the 3 linemen that you picked, maybe they're not all starters, but they're all part of your rotation. No. You've done well in the portal. You made this roster better. You've made it more competitive. You made it closer, if not right on par with the middle of the pack in the ACC. Maybe even a little better at certain spots. Well, now the next step is to get up to the top of the ACC, but we are where we are. It's not a bad roster. 2 years ago, when he took over, especially considering the injuries and the guys that didn't end up playing, that was a horrible roster. This is at least decent ACC roster. Now go win some games with it.
I think this is an 8-win team at minimum. This is built.
Oh, at minimum. Look at you.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Again, you've addressed your needs. I think the defense will carry on to what it had. Maybe a slight step back, obviously, with the loss of a guy like Jermaine Johnson. But this offense is built to be better. So it's on this quarterback. It's on this head football coach to figure it out because they have the pieces now, man. I'll give you some year zero slack. I'll give you some slack with not having anybody other than Pokey, and Pokey's probably a good complementary wide receiver on a bowl-eligible football team, and he was your number 1 guy. That's not ideal. But now you've got guys that, were blue-chip recruits that played in flashes in their previous, institutions. It's all there on the line. Listen, Devontae Love-Taylor grade out 72.9 in 2020, his first season.
Yeah.
I think they'll get something similar. And with that, again, man, I think I'm locking into 8. I'm locking into 8.
Okay, man. Well, here's the thing: whoever is starting on the line of scrimmage, if they're not playing well, you now at least got maybe a couple of options to figure it out, to mix and match. You've got some options that you haven't had here in a good long while, so that's encouraging.
Yo, you hear that? That's the sound of the hottest new club. The Zaxby's Signature Club Sandwich. It's everything you love about our original sandwich, but, clubbier. Hand-breaded chicken, bacon, and cheese, and your choice of Zax sauce or spicy Zax sauce. Try one today with fries and a drink. Only at Zaxby's. Can we turn it down now?
And don't forget to listen in for the Zaxby's indescribably good Player of the Week every Monday on Wake Up Warchant.
Corey, what does it take for change to occur? In history, obviously, revolutions usually started with the shot of a gun. College football, all the changes that are being sort of bandied about and presented, is it going to be... Are good ideas going to win, or are we going to hit a point here where just stupidity is going to force everybody to kind of calm down and get on the same page and figure it out? I ask that because I think the SEC meetings are going on in Sandestin this week, and it was on ESPN Tuesday morning on some of their shows, which, again, is crazy. Their national get-up is talking about the college football playoff because apparently Scott Strickland down in Gainesville, the athletic director, there's also Scott Strickland who coaches baseball in Georgia, but that's neither here nor there, talking about they need to explore every avenue in this changing landscape, and that includes an intra-conference playoff. And Marcus Spears, who I think does a really great job on television. I think he might even have a podcast, but you got enough podcasts with this in headlines, everybody. LSU guy, Mr. SEC, started his broadcast career at SEC Network. He even said, this is a stupid idea. He's like, this is dumb. They already have a playoff. It's called September through November. What would you get? What would they gain? Why? I can't even think only the most fervent SEC fan, and there's, that's not their top 1%. Their most fervent are, like the top 70%, and the 30 are like, yeah, I like SEC football, but it's not life or death. What in the world would that gain? And they're talking about this like maybe being done like after the regular playoff. So like what? You have the SEC championship. That helps determine who makes it into a 4-8 playoff. Or I guess let's keep it at 4 for now. And then you guys are all going to get the band back together and then hammer out a 16-team playoff so we can watch Texas play Vanderbilt in the first round and Alabama take on Kentucky. This has got to be the start of, all right, we need to all calm down and stop just throwing stupid nonsense out there and really figure out how to move forward. What would you think if the SEC was like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this?
I would say go for it and see how you create a bigger schism, right? That's the word. In the nation and in this sport than you already have. And I think, look, man, I think it's just something they're banding about because they're mad that the ACC hasn't signed off on a 12-team playoff. And like, oh, well, since you won't give us a 12-team playoff where we can get 5 of our teams in there, we'll just do one ourselves. We'll stick with the 4-team model, but we're not going to leave all this money on the table that we can make with our own little mini playoff run for maybe the teams that don't get in to the regular playoff. They can have their own end-of-the-year SEC playoff. I mean, it's so incestuously gross that it's like, go for it, man. I think, I would watch it, I guess, if Georgia's playing, but otherwise, who cares? I can't even fathom what the format would be. What, you have a playoff coinciding with the real playoff? Like, or the Falcons and Saints, if they don't make the playoffs, are going to have their own playoff against each other? Like, what's the point of it? Obviously, the point of it is at the end of the day is for more money, but they're trying to put some pressure on, the ACC and maybe any other conferences that were, not real happy about going forward with the 12 teams in the proposition that was proposed.
Wasn't he right?
In the structure that was proposed.
Wasn't Jim Phillips right though? There is so much going on in college football that this probably shouldn't be at the top of the agenda. I mean, like with NIL, transfer portal, I mean, that stuff, we need to figure that stuff out before we get to the playoff. I know you can do more than one thing at the same time. You can multitask. But I think there's some legitimacy to that. Now, he's probably he's doing this to obviously stall things up and play the best hand for the ACC. But, I mean, he's not being totally irrational and impractical by saying, hey, I don't want to sign off right now. Don't you think?
Well, look, man, I don't know if they're setting the stage for when the alliance with the is it it's the Big Ten's part of the alliance, right?
Yeah, man, we're
good.
So
we got one of the big ones. So when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 and the ACC have their alliance, and maybe you throw the Big 12 in there, I guess. Although I don't know what they're even going to be once Oklahoma and Texas leave. But when the playoff, this format is done, if it runs through its completion of the contract, they're going to go to the table, these conferences, and they're going to have to decide what we're going to do for the playoff. Everybody knows for the betterment of the sport and what the inevitability is there will be a 12-team playoff. But blow up the rest of the TV contracts, and now that we've got a 12-team playoff involving these 5 conferences, typically, maybe throw a group of 5 in there or some, but you've got when that's on the table, you've got to align the conferences all making the same types of money. So what's going to happen whenever this playoff, I think it's 2026. I can't remember when the current playoff format runs out. But when it does, they're all going to want to advance to 12 teams. Now, the ACC doesn't have leverage by itself because the other 4 conferences would just be like, all right, fine, man. If you don't want to do it, you're not involved. Sorry, we'll just be us 4. But if the ACC, Big Ten, and Pac-12 are all saying we want an equal share, and we all want new TV deals that feed into this playoff, that's the only card they have to play. because, the SEC can't have a playoff by itself. But they're willing to try, apparently, or at least float that idea out there, because they might think it's a real possibility that these 4 conferences aren't going to want to be a part of a playoff with the SEC where they're making $700 million more a year than the other conferences. It's just not fair. So maybe in that spirit, the SEC's like, okay, we'll float this idea out there, and maybe we can just go have our own playoff, independent of these other conferences. And to that, I say good luck. Fine, have at it. That's the goofiest thing I've ever heard of. Good luck trying to declare yourself a national champion when you only played other teams in your conference.
2 things.
It's just goofy.
A contract for college football playoff goes through the 2025 season, so 2026 it would be expired by that point.
Yeah.
And listen, man, admit it, most of you, we have SEC envy. We would rather go to Oxford and play Ole Miss than go to Winston-Salem and play Wake Forest at BBT Stadium or Truist Stadium, whatever it is now. We'd rather go play, I'd rather go to Arkansas probably than go play Duke in football. But I'm telling you,
Sure.
But this is ridiculous. Like I will admit I have SEC envy on some things, but this is ridiculous. I'd want no part of this. They look silly, I think. And I'm telling you, I'd rather have a playoff with Florida State, Clemson, Miami, Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Southern Cal, Oregon, and Washington.
Sure.
Like, give me that. I will take that, and I think that will rate really high nationally too. And then with whomever else wants to get in there to push us over to 12.
Throw Notre Dame in there too.
Yeah,
Go ahead
come
and
on.
Throw Notre Dame in there.
Yeah, come on, guys. Let's do this. Yeah, that puts us at 10, and then throw two more.
I think it's got to just be posturing about not getting the 12-team playoff they wanted. I mean, that's got to be it, because it doesn't make sense otherwise. And it's it's preparing themselves for the possibility in 2026 they're not all on the same page of what the playoff's going to be in the SEC, because they think they're all powerful and nobody cares about football unless one of their teams is playing in it. They'll be like, you know what? We'll just go play on our own. Have our own playoff, and that'll be that. Didn't the soccer over in Europe try something like this, like the Premier
Super League? Yeah, the Super League. Well, they're going to make a Super League. They're going to get the teams of the Premier League, which is England, La Liga, Serie A. Like, they're going to get the best teams from all those conference or those leagues to play together. I mean, the real play, I think, over the SEC, if you want to posture and scare people, would be to take an NFL model and just consider yourselves the NFC or the AFC. You got 16 teams when Texas and Oklahoma show up, 4 divisions, 4 teams each, and go ahead and play it out that way. You probably keep most of your rivalries intact, have a couple crossovers, and then you could schedule out to where, like, Thanksgiving weekend is your semifinals, like your AFC semifinal, your NFC semifinal, and then the week after that you could have your championship game. And it, I think that might actually work out cooler than doing whatever sort of schedule.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the format they're going to try, then yeah, man, that's actually cool. But again, you're going to be. I feel like those teams that are in the playoff.
But I'm saying, Corey, that is a good way to figure out the SEC champion. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Then how do you go from a playoff when you've basically determined your regular season champion by seeding through a 4-division playoff? That's the whole thing. Like, you can't double dip in this, but good luck.
Sure you can. You're the SEC, man. You can triple and quadruple dip. That's what they've been doing for a decade now. So yeah, man. Who knows? Who knows what the SEC's thinking there? I know the meetings are. I think the meetings are next week. Okay. I think if they were this week, we would know about it because Jimbo and Saban will be there. But yeah, man. That's it's the SEC. I do think though. You said they've got other issues that are bigger than this. I don't know, man. I just think a 12-team playoff is the sooner the better. The sooner it gets done, the better it is for the entire country, not just the SEC. I think you've got to cap it. I know that may not be fair. You've got to cap how many teams from one conference can be in it, and the SEC probably won't appreciate that, but you just cap it at 3 or 4, and that's it. You cannot have a national championship playoff with 8 teams from one conference in there. You just can't, because the SEC would certainly try. So you cap it. Look, man, and I would say, yeah, you only get 3. You only get 3 teams in, and is that fair? If you have the 5 best teams in the country, I guess not. But it's also not fair that you make $700 million more. So live with it. Some things aren't fair, right? The pros outweigh the cons in that trade-off for SEC teams. But yeah, I do think a 12-team playoff is great for college football because, like I've said since it was proposed, it keeps more teams invested late. It gives you more important games late. Now, is Utah going to win a national championship and beat Alabama and Georgia and Ohio State back to back to back? No, probably not. But their fans would love a chance to try, and they would love a chance to play a game in November where a real postseason playoff berth is on the line. Same with I don't know, man, Pitt last year. Like getting into the playoff would be a really cool accomplishment. And instead of 6 teams vying for 4 spots, it's 17 to 18 teams vying for 12. And I just think that ramps up the just think about playoff weekends or the weekend before the playoff matchups in the NFL.
Yeah.
Those are all really big games. They all start them at the same time, so nobody knows what the scores are going on, so they actually have to play to win. Those are really cool Those are really cool Sundays in the NFL, and I think you could get similar to that Thanksgiving weekend or the first weekend of December for college football, where you have literally like 10 or 11 games with playoff implications on the line instead of 2. That's just better for the sport. And it makes it more national, and more teams from other conferences have a legitimate chance to get in.
I think they're just doing it so they can keep cheating with NIL. This is all a ruse, subterfuge, so they can.
Oh well, they're definitely going to keep cheating with NIL. Don't come on now.
Yeah. So what do you think about this quarterback from Louisiana, 4-star quarterback Eli Holstein possibly, committed to Texas A&M back in June of 2021. He was committed all through pretty much most of March, decommitted in March, and then now he's verbally committed to Alabama. And I don't think Jimbo said anything. If you're Jimbo, why don't you just go ahead and be like, hey, Nick bought this one. We're even now.
I don't think you can talk about a recruit. So maybe he'll wait till the kid gets on campus.
That's right.
And then he'll say whatever he has to say. But I'm sure he will definitely say something about it. But
that is the stupidest
I did
rule,
notice that was very funny that he loses a quarterback recruit to Alabama. This week of all weeks was pretty funny.
Can't we let them talk about recruits? I mean, what's stopping?
No,
this?
you just can pay them. You can pay them. You can tweet about them, but you just can't use their names because that's a illegal recruiting tactic. It's always been goofy. Even when a kid commits, you can't talk about him until he's actually signed. It was cool though when Dalvin committed, because he was an early enrollee, I think.
He signed there was a thing you could sign the financial sort of.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Aid package thing or whatever. So,
yeah, I think if he'd have been an early enrollee, I don't think he was, because if he would have, I think he would have played more in the beginning of 2014. But so Jimbo could talk about him. We were out there for the press conference for the national championship game at Disneyland. Disneyland. And Dalvin had just signed the financial aid and committed, so he could actually talk about Dalvin, even though he wasn't. He was still technically a recruit, so that was cool. And Jimbo was actually right; he did change the numbers on the scoreboard. He was dynamic.
ACC baseball started up on Tuesday. Later today, Florida State has their first game. Their pod consists of they and Virginia, as well as Notre Dame. Spoke to the media on Tuesday. They're going to go with Bryce Hubbard on Wednesday and then throw Parker Messick on Thursday. So they're going to let the aces go. They're going to let them free. Basically, going with Hubbard, he said, because he only threw 44 pitches and stunk. Stunk. Yeah. I personally, I guess I'm having it both ways. I criticize Meat for just constantly tweaking his lineup and doing all these funky things. I would have liked to see Jonah start. Do the whole, opener thing and then bring in Bryce Hubbard, because, man, you got to go back to April 15th against Louisville. Is the last time that Bryce Hubbard had, I don't know what the technical definition of a quality start is these days, but what I would say is a quality start against a really good team. He shoved against BC, but BC's so terrible they're not even in the tournament. They weren't the top 12 teams that make it to the tournament, so that shows you who Boston College is. And it was a bizarre sort of explanation we got on Tuesday about Bryce's struggles. And, you mentioned on the podcast earlier the week, Corey, about how he was just fidgeting a lot and he was bending down, leaning over and, constantly swiping his hands on the clay there on the mound to kind of get some traction. And apparently because there was no rosin bag on the mound and they weren't aware of that, he didn't say anything about it until they went and made a visit at the mound, I guess in the 4th inning or whatever, he got pulled. So that's kind of a bizarre story anyhow. But I I don't know, man. I guess it's admirable to keep believing in your kids and trying to maintain a status quo. I guess if you start doing all these radical things, it looks like you're panicking, and maybe that makes guys a little bit more nervous. But he says the confidence is high going into this game. He laid out the 2010 season to the players, which they limped into the postseason, and I think he said they lost the opener in the regional, but stormed back to win it, and then ended up going to Omaha. And I was like, well, if the confidence is good, then, like, why are you having to do this, Meat? And he's like, well, there's nothing wrong with that. You always want to get your kids to feel confident, but what do you think about going Hubbard first and then Messick? And, would you do anything radical in this time and period? Or I want to win games, Corey, but I don't know. Do you just keep doing what you've been doing and trust the process?
Well, yeah, and it was the 2010 team. It was they got swept by Clemson, and then lost the first game of the ACC tournament, and then won the whole tournament. Won the ACC tournament, then got to Omaha. But that team had, James Ramsey and Devin Travis and Mike McGee. I mean, they had, real hitters. And this team does not have that kind of talent in the lineup. That was a good offensive team that struggled to pitch. That was the year that Gil Martin was bad for some reason. He was good he was really good 2 years, but that year he wasn't. So they didn't have much pitching. But they had, especially not starting pitching, but they had really good hitting. But either way, no, man, his explanation for the Hubbard thing is absolutely right. He said he did say Hub stunk, and that he only threw 40 pitches, so he has the fresher arm, so he's going to go. And he did talk about, he wasn't blaming UNC for not having a rosin bag. He was blaming his at the time his Space Cadet pitcher for not telling. Yeah, for not communicating, hey, there's no rosin bag out here, and it's a hot day, and your hand gets sweaty, so maybe throw me one from our dugout. Instead, he just kept doing what he was doing instead of telling his coaches, hey, there's no rosin bag there. I can't get a great grip on the ball. So he ends up giving up 2 in the first and then, basically hitting and walking the bases loaded in the second before he was pulled because he couldn't throw strikes. All he had to do was tell his coaches, yeah, I can't get a grip, and they might have thrown him a rosin bag. And Meat was like, yeah, they're supposed to provide a rosin bag. UNC was. They didn't. Well, tell somebody that. And we'll get a rosin bag for their dugout, or we have 10 in our dugout we can get you. So he was not real happy with that, which is, that would irritate me. It's like you can't just tell me you need a rosin bag if that's really what it is. But the point of it is what Meat said was, they got to get Hubbard right, because if they don't, they can't go anywhere. Now, he didn't say it in those exact words, but he kind of did. He basically said, if we're going to do anything, we're going to need him to be his usual self. So you can't do that by having him come in and back up Scalaro. He's been your number 2 guy all year. He's had some really nice moments, and lately not some great moments. But if they can get him right, which is what this game later today could help with, if they can get him right, they have a chance against anyone with those 2 frontline guys. You have a chance. So that's your only map towards getting out of a regional. It's your only map towards getting Omaha, is those 2 guys pitching really well, or at least one of those 2 guys pitching really well, and then maybe Scalaro, Crowell, Dunn finish it up on a Sunday. But yeah, so I don't think it's the time. I don't mind him fidgeting with the lineup a little bit, but yeah, I don't think you start. Maybe you do Scalaro for like a semifinal game, or maybe a game 3 if you're in a regional, but your first 2 guys the rest of the way, unless Hubbard is just awful again today, your first 2 guys need to be Messick and Hubbard, I think, personally.
All right. They take on Virginia at 3 o'clock. They'll all be on ACC Network Extra as well as the Bally Sports Regional Channel. Then they'll take on Notre Dame Thursday at 3 o'clock. By virtue of the way this all works out, even if everybody splits, Florida State has to win both games to advance because they're the lowest seed in their pod, and that's the tiebreaker, is whoever's the best seed.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, because it's to help out. Like, it's to reward you for your regular season
yeah,
success.
that makes sense. Okay, all right.
So
if they go 1-1, they can't advance.
Correct.
Obviously, 0-2, they wouldn't. But if they go 2 and winning both is the only way they make it. Okay.
Exactly. So that made it easy for us. So it's easy. So
yeah, there you go. Good job, ACC.
They'll start against Virginia at 3 o'clock. So we'll have something to talk about, as well as the Renegade Express on our next show. So that is a wrap for us. Also, a summer report, dude. Check that out. Summer report, defensive tackles. Tom Lang breaking things down in the trench with the DTs up on the YouTube channel. So check that out. Hold you over. Jeff Cameron show as well, 1 to 3 o'clock. And everything recruiting over at warchant.com, the ultimate Seminoles sports source.
And one last thing, of course, a shout out to Brady Clark. Today is his last day of middle school.
What?
And he's off to high school. I guess he's officially a high schooler at 4 o'clock today.
So what is he, class of 26?
26, yeah. He's young, too. That's a bit of a bummer. He's going to be 17 when he graduates high school. He's only 13 now. So
let's hold him back. Let's hold him back. Run it back. One more year of middle school.
I don't think he'd mind that, maybe, but he's got a lot of friends. Well, I'm not bragging. Hey, everybody, my son has friends, but he wouldn't want to see his friends go on and him be stuck in middle school. But it is a bummer that he's a year behind physically from some of the kids he'll be hopefully competing with for playing time if he makes a team.
This is the summer, though. This is the spurt.
Yeah,
summer.
This is when it happens.
I feel it. 6'4".
He's already taller than his mom. He's caught his mom already, and he's chasing me down pretty quickly.
All right, there we go. It's going to work out. Check out warchant.com. In the meantime, we'll be back with another show for you this week, either on Thursday or Friday. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.